Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive here on Vintage Car Chronicles. Today we're gonna be looking at the life and career of Lee Iacocca.
Oh, yeah. A true legend.
Yeah, so this is one that I think a lot of you listeners have been requesting for a while,
Yeah,
and I think it's high time that we finally do it.
I think so too.
So before we jump in, I just want to remind everybody out there that you can catch Vintage Car Chronicles every single day on Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, and YouTube.
That's right.
And yeah, so we got a bunch of sources for this deep dive.
We do.
We've got some excerpts from Iacocca's autobiography,
Hmm.
as well as some encyclopedia entries and a bunch of different articles
Yeah.
covering his life and career. So we're going to be pulling from all these different sources
Trying to paint a full picture.
to try to paint as complete a picture as possible of this pretty amazing guy.
Yeah, the man who gave us the Ford Mustang,
That's right.
saved Chrysler from the brink of collapse,
Yeah.
and delivered some of the most memorable one-liners in business history.
So let's dive in.
Okay, great.
So Lito Anthony Iacocca,
Whoa.
later changed to Lee,
Right.
born in Allentown, Pennsylvania,
Yep.
to Italian immigrant parents.
The American dream.
Yeah, not exactly the typical image of a high-powered auto executive.
No, not at all. But I think that's part of what makes his story so compelling.
Yeah.
He really did come from humble beginnings.
Yeah, and it's interesting how, like, his early life really seems to have shaped his drive and his ambition.
Oh, absolutely. His father, started as a hot dog vendor
Oh, wow.
and then got into real estate and eventually even opened a car rental company.
Really?
Yeah, one of the first in the country.
That's wild.
Yeah,
So, I mean, cars were part of the picture pretty early on,
it seems so. Yeah.
but then, young Lee gets hit with rheumatic fever,
Oh, right.
which, I mean, you think that would be a major setback for a young kid.
We would. Yeah.
But it almost seems like it kind of focused his ambition.
Yeah, he couldn't play sports because of it. But he poured himself into his studies, aced high school,
Mm-hmm.
went on to get engineering degrees from both Lehigh and Princeton.
Wow.
Talk about overachieving.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
So he lands at Ford in 1946, starting as an engineer.
that's right.
But he quickly realizes that his heart's not really in it.
He didn't want to be stuck behind a desk. He
Yeah.
wanted to be out there, talking to people, promoting ideas, selling cars.
He wanted to be in sales and marketing.
Exactly. That's where his personality could really shine.
And that's what he did, right? He switched over.
He did. And that's when things really started to take off.
I mean, remember his 56 for 56 campaign,
Oh, yeah, it was brilliant.
offering affordable loans on 56 Ford models.
It was a national hit.
Yeah, and it just showed like his deep understanding of what consumers wanted and his talent for making it happen.
He had a knack for that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, came the Mustang.
Oh, the Mustang.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
So, I mean, we all know the Mustang is legendary, but what was it about Iacocca's approach that made it such a phenomenon?
Well, he had this vision for a sporty yet affordable car
Mm-hmm.
that would appeal to a younger generation.
Right.
And he was hands-on in every step of the process.
Really?
From design to marketing. He even insisted on an independent rear suspension.
Which was unusual for a car in that price range, right?
Yeah, but it gave the Mustang that extra edge in handling.
So it wasn't just about looks.
No, he wanted the car to perform as well as it looked.
And of course, it became a sensation right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, cementing Iacocca's place as a rising star at Ford.
I mean, he had a hand in the Continental Mark III,
Right.
the Ford Escort, even the revival of the Mercury brand.
This guy was on fire.
It seemed like he had a Midas touch.
Yeah, he had this knack for identifying what the market needed.
Even before it knew it.
Yeah.
It's like he could see the future of the auto industry.
It's pretty incredible.
It really is.
So he's racking up all these successes at Ford, and then bam.
He gets fired.
Yeah, in 1978.
Despite Ford posting a $2 billion profit that year.
It's crazy.
I know, right? It just doesn't make sense.
What happened?
Well, his relationship with Henry Ford II was notoriously complicated.
Ah.
A real clash of personalities.
Yeah.
And ultimately a power struggle that Iacocca lost.
So Henry Ford II was basically just intimidated by him.
It's possible. Some speculate that he saw Iacocca's rising popularity as a threat.
I mean, it does seem like kind of a classic car guy versus bean counter conflict.
Yeah, Iacocca was all about innovation.
Right.
Pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
Sometimes ruffling feathers.
And that didn't always sit well in the corporate world.
No, it didn't.
So what does he do after getting booted from Ford? He walks right into Chrysler.
which at the time was on the verge of bankruptcy.
It was a risky move.
Oh yeah, a huge gamble.
But Iacocca seemed to thrive on challenges.
He did. Maybe he saw it as a chance to prove Henry Ford II wrong.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe he just couldn't resist the challenge of trying to save a dying company.
So he arrives at Chrysler, facing a mountain of problems.
A real mess.
What were his first steps in trying to tackle this massive task?
Well, he had to make some tough choices right out of the gate.
Like what?
Closing plants, cutting the workforce,
Ooh,
even persuading unions to accept wage concessions.
it must have been difficult.
It was a painful process.
Yeah.
But Iacocca knew it was necessary to keep the company afloat.
So he was basically ripping off the Band-Aid.
Yeah, but he also knew that saving Chrysler wasn't just about cutting costs.
Right.
It was about innovation and understanding what the market needed.
And that's where the K-car and the minivan come in.
Exactly. Iacocca had the foresight to see the increasing demand for smaller, fuel-efficient cars, and the K-car delivered.
Yeah, it was practical, affordable, and appealed to a broad audience.
It was a hit.
And then there's the minivan.
Oh, the minivan. That completely changed the family car market.
Those Magic Wagon commercials were everywhere.
I know, right?
It seemed like Iacocca really understood what families needed.
He did. He understood that they needed a vehicle that was versatile, spacious,
Yeah.
and could handle the demands of modern life.
The minivan ticked all the boxes.
And it became a massive success for Chrysler.
But Chrysler's problems ran deep.
Oh, yeah. They were in a lot of debt.
Iacocca needed more than just innovative cars to save the company.
He needed a miracle.
So he made a pretty bold move, going to Congress and asking for a $1.5 billion loan guarantee.
That was a huge gamble.
That must have been incredibly controversial.
It was. Some people saw it as government interference in the free market,
Right.
a bailout that Chrysler didn't deserve.
Hmm.
But Iacocca argued that saving Chrysler was crucial for the American economy,
Yeah.
and that with this help, the company could repay the loans.
He was basically putting his own reputation on the line.
He was. It was all or nothing.
And to everyone's surprise, Congress agreed.
It was a stunning victory for Iacocca.
He pulled off a major gamble.
He was a master negotiator, a persuasive leader,
He convinced Congress that Chrysler was worth saving.
and that he was the man to lead the charge.
And he did.
He did indeed.
Chrysler not only survived, but thrived.
Repaying the loans 7 years ahead of schedule.
That's incredible.
It was a remarkable turnaround.
But the story doesn't end there.
Oh, no, there's more.
Remember Iacocca also acquired American Motors?
Oh, yeah, bringing the Jeep brand under the Chrysler umbrella.
That was a genius acquisition.
It was. Jeep was already known for its rugged off-road capabilities, and it fit perfectly with Chrysler's portfolio.
Iacocca clearly had a sixth sense for spotting market trends.
He did.
And then there was his marketing brilliance.
Oh, yeah, this guy wasn't just a car executive.
Yeah.
He was a salesman extraordinaire.
He was a master of branding.
And he knew how to connect with consumers emotionally.
His "if you can find a better car, buy it" slogan.
That was bold.
It was a bold challenge that really resonated with buyers.
He had that swagger and confidence that people found appealing.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to put himself out there,
Right.
becoming the face of Chrysler in those commercials.
He even popped up on shows like Miami Vice and Late Night with David Letterman.
It was a level of celebrity CEO that we hadn't really seen before.
He was charismatic, relatable,
Yeah,
and he spoke directly to the American public.
he was selling cars, but he was also selling himself.
And his vision for Chrysler,
And it worked.
oh yeah, people believed in him.
And it played a huge role in Chrysler's comeback.
Absolutely.
Like he understood the power of storytelling.
And how to tap into people's aspirations.
Yeah, but his influence wasn't limited to the auto industry.
Right. He was also instrumental in the restoration of the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island.
That's amazing.
He was deeply patriotic
Yeah.
and saw the restoration of these iconic landmarks as a way to give back to his country.
He poured his energy into fundraising and advocacy for the project.
He did.
That's remarkable.
It is.
He was using his platform to make a real difference.
Yeah, he wasn't just about making money or chasing fame.
So we've got this picture of Iacocca as this larger-than-life figure.
The ultimate American success story.
But even legends have their flaws, right?
Of course. His time at both Ford and Chrysler was marked by controversy.
Oh, yeah.
Some criticized his cost-cutting measures as being too harsh, arguing that he prioritized short-term profits over long-term innovation.
Yeah. And we can't forget about the Pinto controversy during his time at Ford.
Right, a dark chapter that raised questions about safety versus cost-cutting.
Those are definitely some difficult aspects of his legacy.
They are.
But there's no denying his massive impact on the auto industry.
No question about it.
So what are some of the key takeaways from Iacocca's career?
Well, he was undoubtedly a visionary leader who wasn't afraid to take risks. He had this uncanny ability to spot opportunities.
And seize them.
Exactly.
He also seemed to have a deep understanding of the American consumer and how to connect with them on an emotional level.
He knew that selling cars was about more than just the features and specs.
Yeah, it was about tapping into people's dreams and aspirations.
Right.
He was also a fighter.
A survivor.
He was fired from Ford, took on the seemingly impossible task of saving Chrysler.
And emerged as a national hero.
His story is a real roller coaster.
It is.
It makes you think about the compromises leaders sometimes have to make and the price of success.
Yeah.
And despite his flaws, he left an indelible mark on the auto industry and American culture.
Absolutely. He was a complex and fascinating figure.
So we've only just scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah, there's so much more to uncover.
Yeah, there's more to learn about this automotive icon.
We've got a lot more ground to cover.
So stay tuned because we're just getting started. Welcome back, everyone. We're continuing our deep dive into the life and legacy of Lee Iacocca.
It's hard to believe we're only halfway through.
Yeah, there's just so much to cover.
So much to talk about.
I mean, where do we leave off? We left off with Iacocca riding high after Chrysler's incredible comeback.
He was a national hero.
But his story doesn't end there.
Oh, no, far from it.
It's almost like a second act in his career.
Yeah, full of twists and turns.
So let's talk about that attempted hostile takeover of Chrysler.
Oh, yeah, that was a wild one.
Back in 1995 by Kerkorian.
Right.
Iacocca actually teamed up with him.
To try and regain control of the company he'd saved.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
It is.
What was going on there?
Well, by that point, Iacocca had retired from Chrysler.
Right.
But it seems he wasn't quite ready to let go.
He still felt a deep connection to the company.
I think so, yeah.
And he believed he could steer it in a better direction.
He probably saw Kerkorian's bid as a chance to shake things up.
Maybe recapture some of the glory days?
Yeah.
But the move also reveals a side of Iacocca that's sometimes overlooked.
What's that?
His ambition.
Right.
And his willingness to play hardball.
I mean, a hostile takeover is a pretty aggressive maneuver.
Even for someone with his reputation.
Exactly.
It's like he couldn't resist the challenge.
Yeah.
This was the guy who took on Ford, saved Chrysler.
Right.
And now he was going up against the very company he'd helped rebuild.
It's a bold move.
But the takeover bid failed, right?
It did. The Chrysler board rejected the offer.
And Iacocca's relationship with the company he'd once led was never quite the same.
No, it was a bit of a sour ending.
It's a reminder that even the most successful business leaders can experience setbacks.
Yeah.
And that the corporate world can be a ruthless place.
Absolutely.
It's a bit of a bittersweet ending to his Chrysler chapter.
It is.
But then we see Iacocca back on the scene in 2005.
Oh, yeah.
Appearing in Chrysler commercials.
Alongside celebrities like Jason Alexander and Snoop Dogg.
What was behind that decision?
Well, it was a nostalgic return.
Yeah.
A way for Iacocca to reconnect with the company and the public. The commercials were a hit.
Yeah, they were fun.
Playing on the public's fondness for Iacocca.
And their memories of Chrysler's comeback. And it's worth noting that Iacocca donated his fees from these commercials to his Foundation for Diabetes Research.
Well, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which he established after his first wife, Mary, passed away from complications of the disease.
That's incredibly generous of him.
Yeah, he used his platform to advocate for a cause close to his heart.
It shows that he wasn't just about making money or chasing fame.
Right, he genuinely wanted to make a difference.
I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah.
Iacocca's commitment to diabetes research was deep and personal.
He poured a significant portion of his earnings into finding a cure.
Hoping to spare others the pain he and his family had endured.
It's a testament to his character.
It is.
He didn't just talk about making a difference, he took action.
And put his money where his mouth was.
Exactly.
So speaking of taking action, let's talk about Iacocca's outspoken nature.
Oh, yeah. He was never one to shy away from controversy.
He wasn't afraid to share his opinions.
Even if they were unpopular.
His book, Where Have All the Leaders Gone, published in 2007, was a pretty scathing critique of the political establishment.
Yeah, he was a true maverick.
Both in business and in his personal life.
He wasn't afraid to ruffle feathers.
Or speak his mind.
Even if it meant going against the grain.
He believed in strong leadership.
And held a deep sense of patriotism.
Often expressing concern about the direction of the country.
Yeah, and you can see that same boldness in his business decisions.
Absolutely.
Whether it was challenging Henry Ford II taking on the Chrysler turnaround,
Hmm.
or even that hostile takeover attempt.
He was always pushing boundaries.
Challenging the status quo.
It was part of his DNA.
Yeah, a driving force that propelled his career.
But it also sometimes led to conflict and controversy.
He wasn't always right.
And his decisions didn't always pan out as he hoped.
But he was never afraid to take a stand.
And fight for what he believed in.
And he did it all with this incredible charisma and charm,
People were drawn to him.
whether they agreed with him or not.
He had this ability to connect with the average American.
In a way that few business leaders could,
It's like he understood the American dream.
because he'd lived it.
He was a living embodiment of that dream.
The son of immigrants who worked his way up to become one of the most influential figures in American business.
His story resonated with people because it represented the possibilities and potential of this country.
Yeah, his legacy is complex and multifaceted.
It is.
On one hand, he was a brilliant marketer, a visionary leader, a symbol of American ingenuity.
He created iconic cars
Saved a major company.
and inspired countless people.
And he was also a flawed individual,
Prone to controversy.
sometimes accused of prioritizing profits over people,
He was a man of contradictions
driven by ambition.
and a deep desire to make a difference.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Oh, okay.
I'm left with this question. How should we remember Lee Iacocca?
That's a tough question.
What's the lasting image we should take away from his life and career?
I think it's important to acknowledge both the positive and the negative aspects of his legacy. We can celebrate his achievements while also learning from his mistakes.
He was a complex and fascinating figure,
Who left an indelible mark on the automotive industry.
and American culture,
And his story continues to inspire and intrigue us.
even decades after his retirement,
We'll be back soon to delve into the final chapter of Iacocca's story.
and explore the broader implications of his legacy on the automotive world. All right, so we're back and ready to wrap up our Lee Iacocca deep dive.
Yeah, feeling nostalgic already.
A little bit, yeah. It's amazing how his career really kind of mirrors those huge ups and downs of the American auto industry.
Yeah, absolutely. He was there for so many pivotal moments. The rise of Japanese imports, the fuel crises, the shift toward globalization.
And he didn't just watch it happen. He was right there in the middle of it all.
Making bold decisions, taking risks, shaking things up.
One thing that really stands out to me is how he got that connection with the American consumer. Like, it was more than just about selling cars.
Right, he was selling an idea, a dream, almost like a sense of possibility.
Yeah, it was about freedom, innovation, that classic American spirit, you know?
Hey, he knew how to tap into that love affair Americans have with their cars.
And he did it at a time when American car companies were really feeling the heat from those overseas competitors.
Yeah, he reminded everyone what American cars were all about.
And he was a master storyteller, too.
Oh, absolutely. His commercials, his autobiography, even his speeches.
He could weave a narrative that just drew people in.
He knew the power of a good story.
And that's something that goes way beyond just the auto industry.
It's a lesson for anyone in business marketing, even politics.
You got to connect with people on an emotional level.
Be authentic. Share those values.
And Iacocca was also really good at adapting to those changing market conditions.
Oh, yeah. He saw the need for fuel-efficient cars, jumped on the minivan craze early on.
And that acquisition of the Jeep brand,
Total game changer for Chrysler.
it's like he could see the future of the industry.
Sometimes it seemed that way.
He wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo,
To take risks.
even if it meant ruffling some feathers along the way.
Yeah, he believed in his vision.
He was determined to succeed no matter what.
And I think that's a powerful lesson we can all take away from his story.
You got to be bold. You got to be willing to adapt.
And you got to know your audience.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Lee Iacocca's life,
A true icon of the American auto industry.
it's clear he left an undeniable mark on American culture.
He was a fascinating figure.
A bit complicated at times,
But always captivating.
and I think his story is a powerful reminder of what's possible when you combine vision, determination, and maybe just a little bit of showmanship.
He showed us that even when things get tough, you can still achieve incredible things.
You just got to dream big and be willing to fight for what you believe in.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining us for another deep dive here on Vintage Car Chronicles. And as always, remember to tune in every single day for your dose of automotive history and nostalgia. We're on Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, and YouTube. So until next time, keep those engines running and that passion for cars alive.